Heyo, it's OmniDog with Root Beer Reviews. Hey, OmniDogs and Omni Kittens. This is OmniDog. Got my root beer here. Couple of little sips because I like it. Just a few sips because I'm still on a diet. I got a request from a couple people asking me to review and tell y'all about some really good non superhero comic books. What are some books that are really, really good that do not feature capes and tights or superheroes? Just some basic, really good books. Some of them have a little science fiction in them. Some of them are just straight slice of life, but these none of these have capes and tights in them, and all are worth a read. So we'll start out. Actually, I have so many, I'm going to have to cut this into two parts because I have so many recommendations. Um, but the first one has a little science fiction in it and a really good mystery. That's Fatale by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. Ed Brubaker, one of my favorite writers, and when he teams up with Sean Phillips, it is flippin' magic. These guys are as solid a team as you can get in comics. I don't want to wreck any surprises, but it is a great mystery with a little science fiction thrown in. So, a science fiction mystery that is a compelling read and has just fabulous art and is just typical Ed Brubaker greatness. This guy can write mysteries and crime stories like nobody's business. So this is a solid, solid mystery that I think people will enjoy, and it does not feature anybody in a cape. The next book hits pretty close to home for me. It's called The Alcoholic by Jonathan Ames with great art by Dean Haspiel. Um, it's about this guy who's got alcohol and drug problems. And as a person in recovery myself, this was a pretty powerful yet hilarious book. It's extremely well written by Jonathan Ames about a character named Jonathan A. So if this is autobiographical or not, I'm not at liberty to say. I just don't know. But he sure does nail the character, nails everything that an alcoholic, whoops, can't show you that, nails everything that an alcoholic goes through. Somebody with drug addiction who's got it all, but this can easily be enjoyed by somebody that's not in recovery, easily be enjoyed by anybody. It is just an amazing book, really well written, and really well drawn. This is one of the better books I've ever read, The Alcoholic by Jonathan Ames. So I would highly recommend this non superhero book. Okay. The next book will come as no surprise to you. I've done a review on it. It's gotten lots of awards, gotten lots of publicity. It is incredibly well constructed. It is My Favorite Thing is Monsters by Emil Ferris. This is an amazing work of art. This shows everything the comics medium can do. It's about a little girl back in the late 60s Chicago, the turbulent times she's going through, the country's going through, that she's going through. Um, they're immigrants, so they go through inequality and racism, and her brother helps her break out of. There's her brother right there, Dee's. Her brother helps her cope with life by getting her into monster movies and monster comics and all kinds of. Her favorite thing is monsters, and she depicts herself as a monster in her drawings. These are her drawings, the little kid's drawings, done on binder paper, simulated binder paper. This thing is a work of art. I just can't say enough about it. It is one heck of a great read. It's pretty thick, and I think volume two is coming out soon. I highly recommend this book. You can't do better than My Favorite Thing is Monsters. This won awards out the wazoo last year, critically acclaimed. It was a darling of the book community, and rightly so. This may have been my top book last year, or Mockingbird may have been. I can't remember, but it was in like the top two of 2017. The next one, Nick Munoz, the fabulous Nick Munoz, recommended this book to me, and I am forever in his debt. Rock Candy Mountain, volumes 1 and 2. No superheroes in this one. This is about hobos trying to who ride the rails, um, and they are. The idea is Rock Candy Mountain is the sort of Valhalla for hobos, and they ride the rails, and it's about their adventures. There's hobo fights and the adventures that hobos go through. Now, the art is a little different. Some people may be turned off by the art. It didn't bother me because the story is so strong. But the devil is real in this, and there he is right there. Um, it is a wonderful book. Just a humor, action. It's indescribable almost. But I mean, hobo fights. How interesting is that? So this book is a great non-cape story. I highly recommend Rock Candy Mountain, volumes 1 and 2. The next book that does not feature superheroes is a book I just recently reviewed, and it is The Beauty. This has to do with a sexually transmitted disease that turns you beautiful. But what happens after 2 years? Well, that's not so beautiful. And this book is very well constructed, great art, great story. Um, the first volume, this is the first volume, sort of wraps it up beginning to end. It's a whole story. Volumes 2 through 4 fill in the gaps and flesh out the story and tell you more about the characters that are. Whoop, can't show you that. Tells you more about the characters that are in this first book. Some get the beauty, some don't. It's a murder mystery. It's an action adventure. It's a thriller. It's got a lot of great components in it. It's got a lot of fun things going on in it. I highly recommend The Beauty. This was an excellent read. Now I'm kind of cheating with this book because it's very science fiction-y. There are no superheroes in it, but it takes place off Earth in a different quadrant, and it's science fiction basically, but there are no superheroes in it, so I'm thinking it counts. That's Copperhead. It's kind of a sci-fi western themed book. It's about a sheriff that takes over in a new town. She's got a kid to take care of, and there's all kinds of weird beings, space creatures. It's a very human story, though. What she has to go through being the sheriff in this mining town called Copperhead. There's a murder going on that she's trying to investigate, and there's corporate intrigue, and it's a wonderful, wonderful story. This, I believe, it's still ongoing. Um, it's got 4 volumes right now. It's ongoing. My understanding is it takes the writer a long time to write a story. So grab all 4 volumes and then just be prepared to wait for the story to end. But you'll have a great time because this is a great read, and I highly recommend Copperhead. This one's also a science fiction-y sort of book. It's got werewolves stalking the border of the U.S., and it's kind of got bits of magic in it. It's got it's got werewolves in it, which is cool. Something is wolves. Let's see. Let me read the back of it. Women are going missing in the city of Lost Girls, a border town in the desert. Officer Frank Coffey is trying to get to the bottom of this when he meets Red, a 13-year-old girl with a katana blade and a mission: murder the werewolves stalking the border and picking women off one by one. It's a great book. Highly recommend this book. The art's a little scritchy scratchy, but that's okay. It doesn't take you out of the story. It really actually helps the story along, and the book flows really well. I found it quite compelling. Well, I don't want to show you too much of that part because that may give away some of the story. But this is an excellent book, one and done. There may be more on the way, but Coyotes is a great book that I highly enjoyed, and it's got, magic and werewolves in it. So how bad could it be? I mean, it's already great just with that premise. Written by Sean Lewis, art by Caitlin Yarsky. It's good. Next is a book I've recommended several times. I've done a review on it. There's no superheroes in this comic book. This comic book is Postal by Matt Hawkins and Brian Hill. This takes place in the Edenverse that Matt Hawkins has created, along with the books Think Tank and The Tithe. This is about Eden, Wyoming, where convicted criminals that are out of prison go and live, and it's off the map. It officially doesn't exist, and a murder occurs there, which is strictly against the rules. There are rules in this town. It's got a mayor and everything, and the mayor's son, who is on the spectrum of Asperger's somewhere, is the postmaster there. Even though it's off the map, it still gets mail. And he's a bit of a genius when it comes to solving crimes and solving the problems that occur in this town. He's a great character that was really well thought out, really fleshed out well. He has trouble communicating, trouble communicating, yeah, with other people, but he's a hero, kind of a hero in this book. He's the one that they turn to solve problems, and it's 6 books long. And I think there are a few issues that have come out that still need to be collected. But I love Postal. This was really well written. And the other books are great too. Think Tank and The Tithe. Those aren't superhero books. And it's really quite remarkable, the world that Matt Hawkins has created. And Postal's a wonderful book. Next, here's a book you wouldn't think of as a non-superhero book, but it is. That's The Punisher, Platoon by Garth Ennis. Garth Ennis is becoming my favorite war comic book writer. He nails the Vietnam War in this. This is about Frank Castle and his first tour in Vietnam, and what happens as told to a reporter or an investigator by a group of his old platoon mates. So it's really about the Vietnam War. There's no Punisher in this whatsoever. Just Frank Castle trying to fight a war and what he does to get things done there. It's quite gritty, quite realistic, and amazing. I mean, this is a great book. I've reviewed this book, and it is wonderful. There's no superheroes in it. The Punisher doesn't really show up in it. It's really about Vietnam and Frank Castle and what it does to him. And I think it's great. Garth Ennis knows war and nails the Vietnam War in this book. The next non-superhero book, I don't know if this book is available still, but there are a lot of American Splendor books out there. Harvey Pekar, who sadly passed away a few years ago and was a frequent guest on the David Letterman show, originated, in my opinion, the slice of life comic. He just basically writes about his life and gets artists to illustrate it. Artists as famous as R. Crumb have illustrated these books, these stories of his, and they're basically his life, day to day living. He's such a good storyteller. He makes that interesting because it's hard to make day to day life interesting. He takes the mundane and makes it fascinating. It's just his life written out and drawn really well by various artists. Whatever Harvey Pekar American Splendor books are out there, I highly recommend them. Um, there is some R. Crumb in this particular book. There's a lot of R. Crumb in some of the earlier ones. They were friends in Cleveland. Um, but one guy's life is very interesting. I mean, he's a file clerk in a government facility, and yet somehow it's compelling. So any kind of American Splendor you can find, definitely pick up. And the last in this segment book is by the fabulous Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. They are quite a team, and I don't know why this is in there. Maybe it's a bookmark, but it's Criminal. And this is some of the best crime noir stuff you're going to read. These are various arcs of his book Criminal. They came with various stories when they came out. There's 2 editions of this Criminal. It's back in print for a little bit, so I'd jump on it if you can find it, because these editions have been out of print for a long time and were hard to find. I was going to say Incognito, but that has a superhero in it. So I highly recommend anything Ed Brubaker, and anything Ed Brubaker crime noir is highly readable and really interesting, exciting, fun, well put together, well drawn. I can't say enough about Criminal. This is a fabulous choice if you want a non superhero book. So that's the end of part 1, and upcoming will be part 2. So I hope I've piqued your interest in some of these non superhero books. Thanks for watching Root Beer Reviews, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Peace and love, peace and love.